The Journal of Gospel Music is happy to have two-time Grammy winner Ann Nesby with us today. Hello, Ann. How are you?
How are you? I'm doing fine.
Great, thank you. Well, I want to get to your single and your album and the work you're doing with the American Heart Association, but I just learned not long ago that you really got started, if you will, working with James Cleveland and the Gospel Music Workshop of America.
I absolutely did. I sang with the Gospel Music Workshop of America for almost 5 years. I led on, I think, 3 of the projects that they produce from the workshop every year. Singing lead in St. Louis on one of the projects. I met Donald Lawrence, who is one of our great legends in the gospel industry now. And from there, went on to do off-Broadway gospel cabaret, Sing Hallelujah. From there, with Donald Lawrence, off-Broadway to Sounds of Blackness, and the rest was history.
Wow, yeah. So, because I was going to ask you, how did you become part of Sounds of Blackness? How did that all happen?
I became a part of Sounds of Blackness when I went to visit my sister in Minneapolis. We had been friends with the director, Gary Hines, for some years, and my sister went away for college. And, you know, your parents have you to go and join up with the church to have kind of a family atmosphere while you're away from home. And she just happened to go to the church where the director of Sons of Blackness, Gary Hines, was also the minister of music at the church at Sebastany Baptist Church. And my father, who was also a pastor, we started a fellowship. He started a fellowship with that church. And Gary had my sister to come in and work with Sounds of Blackness. And I went to visit my sister. Some years later, they were doing one of their productions, because, you know, Sounds of Blackness is also a theatrical company.
Yeah.
And when I was coming off Broadway from doing Donald Lawrence's Gospel Cabaret, I went into one of their theatrical productions the night before Christmas, and they asked me to be a part of Sounds of Blackness, to be a part of that production, and that's how everything got the ball rolling.
Gosh, did you always know you wanted to sing?
I absolutely did. I came from a very musical family. Both grandmothers sang. Both my mother and father sang. And my sisters, we had a family singing group, and my parents' group, they sang in a quartet group, and they would have rehearsals in our home, so music was all around me. And, of course, growing up during the Motown Stax era, we had great radio in the Chicago area to listen to, and being musically inclined, I was really had the music in the best of both worlds, so I think that's kind of what shaped my life.
So you talk about Chicago. How long did you live here?
I actually was born in Joliet.
Okay.
And I did a lot of my early on gospel singing as an adult in the Chicago area, working with Reuben Lightfoot, who was a very renowned gospel artist out of Chicago, and working with him, and he introduced me actually to some of the leaders of the Gospel Music Workshop of America, and that's the way that I had my opportunity to start singing lead on some of those Gospel Music Workshop projects.
It's great you mentioned Reuben Lightfoot, because he is one of those that has a tremendous impact on gospel, but you don't hear of him often anymore, of course. So.
Well, after Reuben Lightfoot was deceased, I was a part of his group, and after moving away from the Chicago area, moving to Minneapolis, that was the reason why I didn't continue singing in the group. When I moved to Minneapolis, I moved there to take on the role of being the lead singer for Sounds of Blackness, so it was kind of me going from Reuben Lightfoot's group into Sounds of Blackness as well.
Other influences on your singing? Some of the other people that you would consider influences?
Oh, absolutely. My mother was a huge fan of Mahalia Jackson and Aretha Franklin, and I listened to that music and great gospel music singers. And I grew up in a church in Joliet, Mount Zion Baptist Church, where we had some great musicians and great singers to come through. I had part of the Dorsey family legacy that played in our church, and also my church was one of those churches that a great artist would visit. We would have like a fourth Sunday musical. At a very young age, I would be standing downstairs when some of those great artists, who we now know as gospel legends, come and participate in the musicals. Legends such as Albertina Walker and Inez Andrews, the staple singers. So early on, I was very privy to being in the audience when some of those great gospel singers would just come through and just sing in a Sunday night musical. So I've been very blessed coming from a musical family and then growing up in a musical church. So it played a great role in my life. And then listening to the music in the secular world from radio, I would listen to, of course, some great singers that did a lot of things, Stevie Wonder and Gladys Knight, and, of course, Aretha. I'm so sure that some of those great artists definitely influenced my life and singing that I do.
So you went from Reuben Lightfoot, Sounds of Blackness, and what inspired you to go solo?
Well, when I went solo from Sounds of Blackness. Like I said, I went in on the theatrical side of the production of Sounds of Blackness, doing theater. And during the first production, the night before Christmas, which eventually Sounds of Blackness garnered a Grammy, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis had been friends of Sounds of Blackness for years. Sounds of Blackness had sang on some of the great artists, Alexander O'Neal, Sherelle, and other artists. Sounds of Blackness were the background cushion and the choir that sang behind some of those greats. And at that time, my sister was singing lead and stepping out. And when I came in and I started working with the group, and I did the Christmas production, and I met and talked with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis when they came and asked the Sounds to be one of their first artists on their new label. I had done the second production with Sounds of Blackness, which was a production called Music for Martin, which was a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King. And Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis came and brought Janet Jackson to the show, who was in the studio recording just to get her out of the monotony of being in the studio every day. And when she came and heard the group, and they told her they were thinking about having Sounds of Blackness to be their first group, she nudged them and said, "You guys, you got to sign this group. There's nothing like this out there, and the industry would be remiss not to have heard this." When they approached me, they offered me a solo deal, and they the same time they offered Sounds of Blackness a deal, and they began recording Sounds of Blackness. And when they signed the group, they signed me as a solo artist. So after 3 projects with Sounds of Blackness, they decided to go with their option to release me as a solo artist. And I think there was a misunderstanding in the industry that I had gotten the big head and just taken off. As soon as Sounds of Blackness had great success, but it was their determination to pursue their option to release me as a solo artist in '96. Sure.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm glad you're setting the record straight right here. Absolutely. Well, and you know, obviously you've got a tremendous amount of talent, and you can tell you have a tremendous amount of vocal training as well. Do you continue to take singing lessons and that sort of thing?
Well, the training that I got was definitely the first training ground for me was church choir, and having some great music directors and great music teachers in church that saw my gift and helped to develop me there in church. You know, I always say when I'm speaking to young people that church was my greatest training ground, going to choir rehearsal every week. That was vocal training that that I didn't have to pay for. It was kind of a faithful thing, being there, being faithful, taking advantage of what was there, and something that made me better in having discipline to be able to learn more about the craft that I love, also to be able to give back, to share in giving in the choir, to sing for the church, and of course having an opportunity to work with the likes of Reuben Lightfoot and vocal training with the group, and to be able to be in the training sessions of the Gospel Music Workshop of America, and from there going under the tutelage of Gary Hines, who is a vocal extraordinaire. The grueling schedule that Sounds of Blackness always had, the professionalism of Gary Hines in vocal training with the group, and the chorale training there. That was the amount of training that I had, but no personal professional training on my parents' account or my account to go out and have to pay for vocal training, but to have the gift that God has given me, my craft kind of perfected as I went along and participating.
I was just going to say, it's definitely there. Well, talk about your new single, I See Beyond. It's a big number and really well done. Tell us what's the inspiration behind that single?
Thank you so much. I See Beyond is a part of a project that I did with Arrow Records, and that's Pastor Kathy and Creflo Dollar, the World Changers ministry here in Atlanta. And I've been a member at the church there for going on 17 years now, but at that time it had been 15 years. I was approached to do a project with Arrow Records because they were adding a soul division, and they knew of my previous work, and they knew that I sang the entire idiom of African American music and inspirational songs, and that's what they wanted for this label because they had the gospel label for going on 15 years. So when I was asked, I was really elated because I was already there, and I wouldn't have to travel all over the world to record and to be a part of a record label. So this particular song is a part of that project entitled Living My Life. And I worked with Tony Dixon, Vernon Messam, and myself and my husband Timothy Lee for this song. And this song is a song of faith. The project is life music. I named it life music because it dealt with the realities of life and the relationships that we have in our lifetimes and things we go through. And I always write from my point of view as a Christian, sharing situations and my solution and my point of view. So I See Beyond is a song of encouragement to give life and hope, to share an experience and to allow someone that may be in the same situation that I was in as we begin to write this song, to tell them that the sun shines even after the dark clouds and the storms in your life. You may be not able to understand that or see that right now, but you have to look beyond by faith and trust God that everything will be all right after the sun shines.
When I was listening to the song, it reminded me of something somebody sent me that said, when things appear out of place, perhaps they are just falling into place, and that seeing
Absolutely.
beyond, you know it's coming. So,
absolutely.
Well, how has the album been doing? I know it's been out for a while.
Well, the project is doing well, and I'm really excited because it's inspirational, and all different genres are taking hold of it. We even had some numbers that came about on the electronic dance side that were inspirational, called Cannonball, and it catered to the idea of encouraging people that had been bullied. And we have a lot of that in our society.
Yeah.
We weren't, I didn't purposely do it, but the song began to take on the character of being able to encourage and mentor people that have been bullied. And the song talks about how, in the first verse it says, I was fragile like cellophane. You could pierce right through me when you called me names. And then the second verse came back around and talked about all of my scars. I wear them proud. It made me who I am. Now I'm coming out like a cannonball. And I related that to the fact that, sometimes we go through our life, we have scars and we feel hurt and we're down. But when we have Christ and we have God in our lives, we know that if we hold on to Him, when we come through, we may go through the fire, but we come out as pure gold. So I was thinking of that as being the cannonball that I'm coming through. And when God brings you through something, there's nothing that can hold you back. No door closed in your face could ever stay closed when you come through like a cannonball. So I had the opportunity to do that on the electronic dance side with the design team out of Norway. So being able to work with international producers and to world-renowned producers to be able to do songs like Living My Life. Kendrick Dean had written for some great international artists, Beyonce, Knowles, Mary J. Blige, Mary, and the list goes on, to be able to work with them to create life music, songs like Living My Life, where it talks about how people think that when they see you that you're carefree and you have no problems, but you have to be able to share with them, I have problems, but I know who is the problem solver, and I know how to let go of things that I don't have any control of and give the control to God. So songs like that has really been a great part of this project and doing well and encouraging people. I've worked with Patrick Dean. I've worked with Patrick Hayes. I've worked with even young Jordan Dollar, Pastor Dollar's our young daughter. Songs like In the Morning, Everything's Gonna Be All Right. So they're songs of hope and songs of encouragement. So they've been doing pretty well, and I'm really excited about the project. And with this new single that we have now, I'm very excited. We're getting a lot of calls from around the country that they're really loving the single, so I'm excited about it.
Excellent. Well, and tell us about, now you've become a spokesperson for the American Heart Association. Tell us about the Check, Change, Control program.
Check, Change, and Control program is a part of the American Heart Association slogan, and Life is Why. In 2004, I had congestive heart failure. I began to talk to my doctor, and we, were sharing ideas about my lifestyle, and especially being in the music business. And as we began to share information about my blood pressure and my heart issues, we were already friends, and she was also a fan. So we began to talk on that level, and she began to talk to me about the heart function and how it was such a small muscle. And sometimes we don't even think about that in terms of the kind of weight that we put on our heart. That small muscle that takes care of all of our body functions, and how tired we must make that muscle, and we're not really paying attention to our heart. Because, years ago it was always kind of considered heart disease, and heart attack was a man's disease.
Right.
And we took the attention off of it being a killer of women in stressful positions with family and working and taking on, of course, stroke and heart attack is such an issue with women. And as my doctor and I began to talk about it, I was overweight because of my lifestyle, eating late and, eating after the show and running here and running there, eating on the run and late night eating. And my weight had spiraled out of control, and we tried every diet workshop, so many different diets, even free passes to go work with this diet clinic and that. We started to talk about the gastric bypass, and I really shied away from that because I'd heard so many terrible things. And as we began to talk about it and pray, God began to move and work things out. I went on to have the gastric bypass, and after having done the gastric bypass and having had a successful surgery and the weight loss, my blood pressure decreased. I was diabetic, and my diabetes disappeared with the weight loss and the exercise. But I had to change my lifestyle. I had to continue to check and stay in contact with my doctor. And when the American Heart Association came around with a check, change, and control program, it was exactly what I had to do. I had to change my lifestyle, check in on my heart situation and the way that I did things, and just control what I did and begin to control my eating, control my lifestyle, and not just for myself, but for those that love me and those around me, for what I did. And my doctor made a poignant statement when she said, if you're not going to take care of your health for you, think about us, those that love you, and being there for your family longer. And she said, you have a lot of fans. She said, so you can't be selfish, and you got to be able to stay in touch with your heart so that you can stay in touch with our hearts. So that was a big reason why I decided to jump on board with the American Heart Association when they approached me, and I'm really excited that this was a platform that I could be a part of.
Well, that's terrific in so many different ways. It's so busy in the music industry. What would you say to other artists out there who hear this and are struggling to try to figure out the best way to take care of their health?
I would definitely say start early. Understand the genetics of your family, because it also plays a part. It played a part with me with heart disease and high blood pressure and all those different things. A lot of us, we have genetic issues, and we have to begin early dealing with those, checking it out, checking out what your genetics are, and controlling your eating habits and eating in modesty, and being able to take snack foods with you, and understanding your health, and be more watchful and mindful of what you have to do, and be mindful of your heart. Respect your heart, and know that without it, we can't function.
That's true. Well, final question, and what's next for you? What do the next few months hold in store for you?
Well, the next few months, I'm definitely going to be involved in stage plays right now, and also going around still promoting Living My Life with this single, I See Beyond, promoting the single. And I'm also getting ready to get more serious about the film side of my career, and taking acting classes and doing theater.
Excellent. Wow, terrific. Well, Ann, thanks for spending time with us, the Journal of Gospel Music.
Thank you.